All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our online webinar session today, the 30th of October, 2024. With us, we have Tom from all the way from the US. Hi, Tom. And at the moment, he's estimated time in the US there is 11 o'clock in the morning, so we're still good. By the time we clock off here, I think Tom's going to go and have lunch while we go have dinner. But thank you very much for joining us, Tom. And there's a familiar face there, Miladen. Hello. Yeah, with us is Dieter. So Dieter's our administrator. He's the man behind the scene that you don't see his face too often. And I think one day we should display his face somewhere so people get to know him too. We just hear his voice from time to time. But first of all, yeah. So welcome and congratulations, and thank you for everybody. We're celebrating the Global Clinical Engineering Day today. With that comes a lot of nice things. We've got a couple of awards that we'll be doing towards the end of this presentation. So we ask each of you to please hold on and don't log off. Although this is a recorded session, so just for your information, it's all recorded, and eventually we'll be posting this on our YouTube blog. So yeah, if you're not a member yet or haven't registered, please like it, and you'll get prompts if and when new videos are loaded onto YouTube. So yeah, we have an award session towards the end, and then finally the last point that I'd like to say, just a gratitude towards our Gold Corporate members and our corporate members that have also been making it possible that we can continue doing what we're doing through webinars throughout the whole country of South Africa. Yeah, so thank you very much to all of those. Teachers are sending me a message here quickly. So today we're going to be doing a recording. So it's a pre-recorded that Tom has sent through to us. So after the session, we're going to have some Q&A. And we've also asked that if there are any questions that Tom answers them. So he's here. So what you're going to be hearing is a recording. And then thereafter, we'll do some Q&A if there are any. Next point is then, yeah, we've got everybody on mute. And towards the end, I think Dieter did mention that we're going to allow you to unmute yourselves. So we've got everybody on mute at the moment. That's just to keep the session sort of quiet. We don't want to hear any background noises of kettles boiling and chickens crowing and so forth throughout the presentation. A little bit about Jude before we start. Jude, yeah, Tom, Mr. Jude is, and this one's very close to my heart. So I'll start with this one, and maybe Tom blushes a bit. We'll see. But Tom is a former Navy jet pilot. That's close to my heart. I got my background training also in the military. He's got a number of degrees in aerospace, and then also went on to complete a degree in biomedical engineering. Then he's got a plus minus 25 years of experience. I speak under correction there. Tom, you just throw something there from the USA to me if I've said something wrong. He also has sat and been an advisor to WHO on numerous HDM programs. Tom's very passionate about clinical engineering. 50 years. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. 25. I just thought about 25 sounds a bit young. And there's a lot more wisdom in that 50 years. And yeah, he's very passionate about clinical engineering. He serves as a liaison director for the Global Clinical Engineering Alliance. He was also a board member of IFMBE. Yeah, he's been a liaison with a number of associations, as well as being a key integral part in the COVID-19 pandemic in advising and setting up a number of DH tools for the global scale. We have a very short space of time. We don't want to waste anybody's time as well as this recording. So from here, I would like to ask Dieter, if you are available and I can hear, please play the video. I don't know, maybe Jude, if Mr. Tom, Jude, if you want to say hello to everybody, we can hear your voice. That's not a recording too.
It's good to be here, and It's Judd, but like mud, but cool.
Okay.
And look
Okay.
forward to it. Thanks. Good day, Kisa. Glad to be with you. Tom Judd here, and we're going to talk, as you've asked, about gaining recognition as a clinical engineering leader, how you grow your career. And boy, we're all excited about Global CE Day, which we're in the midst of Global CE Week. And of course, I represent Global Clinical Engineering Alliance today, and we've done a proclamation, and we're working alongside our colleagues at IFMBE Clinical Engineering Division, Fabiola Martinez and friends. And of course, we created this proclamation about this day and week. Whereas clinical engineering is vital and professionals play a pivotal role and have demonstrated exemplary service, particularly during the pandemic, and a thriving community. And so anyway, we want to get recognition at the national level, and looking forward to this celebration with you. All right, so what's the story today? And of course, I'm excited to be with Kisa. As you'll learn here in a few moments, I've had the privilege of coming to your wonderful country several times. And I really affirm your key fundamentals, encouraging professional development, personal and professional, reinforce the profession, strive for excellence, represent all levels of practitioners, engineers, technologists, technicians, managers, others, and to foster international cooperation. So specifically, I was asked today to talk about practical ways for a clinical engineer in South Africa to better position or market themselves within their organization, no matter what their role is, in a way that highlights their key contributions and adds value to their stakeholder organization. So I'll do that. And what a great country you have. And of course, I've updated Eswatini. All right, so the story I want to tell today, it's really not about me. It's about you. Where are you on the continuum of your career, of your profession here? This is kind of an overview comment to statement slide, and I'm going to drill down on some of these issues as I move along. Certainly, there's some guiding principles. There's a dozen or more that clinical engineers over the last 4 or 5 years have put together, and we'll look at those. My journey, which will be similar perhaps in some ways to your journey. What was I doing before I became a clinical engineer? What was my early clinical engineering time like? What are some of the building blocks throughout your career? How can clinical engineers gain a wider perspective on healthcare and how we fit into it? Then you need to look at what are my particular interests, gifts, and talents to work on. And then, you will always throughout your career continue to study, continue to grow. And, you're like my friend Mladen pictured here a few years back, you're never really allowed to retire, of course. So some of those highlights over on the right is, back in the day, I got to fly for the Navy and learned a principle I think that applies to clinical engineering is that whatever you're doing, do it fully, fly at the edge of the envelope. Don't stall out because you went too far, but use all of your gifts and talents. And then early on in your career, as you expand scope of practice and you educate others in society's manner, like Kisa, be willing to take risks. And then cultivate relationships, publish, consider best practices, go to programs where you can learn that. And then I learned serving wider about healthcare by serving locally and globally. A key moment for me was 6 years in as a clinical engineer. I was in my mid-30s. My hospital in Florida sent me to Paraguay to help a hospital that they were affiliated with there. And I saw what our profession could do. It really raises the health of communities, changes life for families. And I got a wider vision of what clinical engineering could do. And then as I acted on that vision, I met my WHO colleagues there in Sao Paulo, across another beach from where you are in 1989. And then we began these advanced clinical engineering workshops in 1991 out of the American College of Clinical Engineering that began in 1990. And you see at that first workshop, it was focused on Latin American colleagues with WHO. And you see some characters in that picture. I'm the redhead. second from the right, Adriana Velazquez, a young clinical engineer from Mexico, receiving her certificate, and behind her is Dr. Bensing Wang. And then if you fast forward 25 years to the fifth Advanced Clinical Engineering workshop, you see a lot of friends there. And along the way, Mladen led 25 years ago a workshop, a seminar, a week-long seminar in Cape Town. And you see several folks that were involved with that. So some high marks along the career. But wherever you are in your walk, be willing to take risks, reach out. So we'll talk more about that. Okay, so if my career, if your career is not about you, what is it about? And I'll quickly say, first of all, as Adriana always reminds us from this painting that's powerful about the child that's ill with her dad and mom in the background and the physician, it's really about the patients. You know, wherever you practice, it is locally, specifically, individually about the patient and what it is we do that serves the patient. But it, you know, we can come along with our colleagues and make a difference beyond local. And who, as I walk down my path, who could I help to grow, or who could I join in this these efforts? And let me highlight a few people very quickly. You know, in my second job, I was in a teaching hospital. Then I got to go to start a department at a community hospital, and I started teaching in the local junior college. And this young man came along, and he was very interested. And his name is Scott Long. He's this first picture here in the middle of the slide. And he said, "I'm so interested in this profession, Tom, how can I get involved?" And I said, "Besides your night classes that you're taking, why don't you come as a volunteer? I don't have enough money to pay for you." And so he came as a volunteer, and then he later grew. And I left that organization, a small startup service organization, out of our big community hospital in 1984. I met Scott in 1985. I left in 1988, and that company is still going 40 years later, and Scott's the president of it. So he likes to laugh about how I started him at almost no money. And then another role I had was with the Hospital Corporation of America, and here's an HTM manager, Richard Overturf, that still is practicing around the US and doing great work. I got involved in quality at some point, both quality in clinical engineering and quality in healthcare. And Janet joined a team I was a part of in Atlanta here in 1994 until that role ended in 2006. But she and I and a nursing friend meet 3 times a year for our birthdays for the next 18 years after that. So these are people that became lifelong friends. Then I had the privilege of working with a couple key leaders. I met Mario Castaneda and George Panegiotopoulos in 1990, but then began to work for them at Kaiser Permanente in 2004. And they have both passed on to their reward, but they made a huge difference in my life, loving on me and me serving with them. And I'm so thankful. So these are some of the people who can you help grow, or you can join along the way. It's really about the people that you work with that really make a difference. So what are those guiding principles that clinical engineers globally have put together that all of us health technology management practitioners need to know and learn? And honestly, there's not enough time to go over these, but this, of course, presentation will be made available to you. But we want to be part of an innovation culture. We want to be people-centric, as you've heard. It's not about us alone. We have to be in part of teams and goals-driven. We have to be able to make decisions quickly and change based on evidence. We need to understand, of course, how technology can be used in many ways. So we have to have a system of systems focused. You know, if you make something better at one part of a system and another part, you know, is failing, then you really haven't understood the system of systems focus. Have to be able to communicate well. That was never a strength of mine going along the way, but, you know, I kept working at it. And, you know, you have to trust what you've learned and, you know, trust others. You know, it's really about humility. No matter what you know, it'll never be enough. So we really have to be not only humble, but be able to tell people when you get it wrong. And admit our errors and move on. Integrity and ethics driven. There's codes of conducts that are out there. KISA perhaps has one, but if people can't trust us, we're not going to grow. We have to be able to interact with people with soft skills in many different ways. And then I'm so excited about, over the years, of the privilege of investing deeply in one another's lives and helping make a difference personally and professionally. So see, these are some of the principles. Now, what's a framework for growing ourselves, growing our career, growing our teams? This is a slide developed from the global community, clinical engineering community in recent years. And of course, on the left, you see the many things clinical engineers do. Clinical engineering practitioners manage, innovate, ensure appropriateness of health technologies on the front end and sustainability on the back end, work through societies to develop capacity and to measure and improve safety and quality and outcomes. And of course, we've done that in partnership over the last 30, 40 years with WHO. And so I will not stop there, but you can see from this framework, it's really about 3 buckets: knowledge, investment, and competencies. And in the knowledge bucket, you see the traditional education training, perhaps internships. I know registration's an issue alongside certification for credentialing in South Africa. But, in the knowledge bucket, you better add digital health and innovation. In the investment bucket, where's the health technologies coming from? Are they coming from donations in many African countries? Are they coming because the Ministry of Health led the effort to purchase? Is there a department with capabilities, inventory management, modern day CMMSs? But once again, are you measuring to improve quality and safety? And last, the bucket of competencies, not only traditional CEHTM, but how are you working with the wider healthcare team and clinicians? How are you bringing together your societies to learn from one another and developing leaders and getting involved nationally? So once again, time doesn't permit. So how can you finally get to the question asked me today? How can a clinical engineer better position and market themselves? And what are you doing to improve clinical outcomes within your organizations? So highlighting a couple things and talking about how I had the privilege of doing that early on. How did I work on my knowledge? What are you doing to increase your education, training, credentialing? And I had an opportunity in the US to be there was a process at that time that if you had 3 years of clinical engineering experience, you could go for certification exam, oral, written, and I had the opportunity to do that and get certified 3 years in. And then, when I went to after that teaching hospital experience, which was a wonderful place to start for me at age 29, at age 30, I went to a teaching, our community hospitals I mentioned, mother and baby, and an adult hospital, 550 beds, and had a chance to create a 4-year plan for developing that clinical engineering department. General biomedical the first year, medical imaging the second year, clinical lab the third year, HTM capabilities, and the fourth year computer stuff, which in the early 80s was a little bit smaller than it is today. But so I worked on leading edge at that time, which was to provide medical imaging and clinical lab service, CT and X-ray and so forth. What about investment? How well do you understand the profession in your country, how it's organized in your province, the mission of your organization, so that you can connect with healthcare leadership in your organization? And so you share their vision and you work on the things that are important to them and they turn out to be important to you. In those early days at that developing at that community hospital, reported to a senior administrator, but I began each year to present the story of the development of my department, but I helped create a local CE society. A few years later, we created a state province level for you state society. And then about 10 years in, with Dr. Yadin David and others, created a national CE society. By going to those meetings year after year, I not only got to present, but I got to learn best practices from colleagues. So it mattered. And then competencies, I've already talked about a little bit. What's the current scope of your department? Is it doing general biomed? Is it doing imaging? Is it doing clinical lab? Is it doing all things computer? Is it doing digital health tools? What opportunities do you find to grow your capability and your team's capability? I already talked about this 4-year plan at that community hospital early in my career, starting these societies, teaching clinical engineering at the local junior college, seeking opportunities to grow myself and to help others. But what was going on in those years for knowledge, investment, and competencies that really pushed me ahead long-term? And I would say getting that certification, as I said, after 3 years, and then getting the opportunity as a young CE practitioner to join the National Certification Commission, and then later to lead it, gave me a wider vision. And that international trip 5 or 6 years into my career to Paraguay, where they were, as I mentioned, maybe that we were building a new hospital wing, and I saw in the international setting the differences we could make on communities and families working in that hospital. Really changed the trajectory of my career. So a little bit maybe off to the side, but what, if the leading edge today is more along the lines of digital health for clinical engineering, what did that look like after those, teaching hospital for me, community hospital, then I was a consultant for a while, then I joined the military healthcare for a while, and then I joined Kaiser Permanente, and that was the last 25 years of my paid career from the early 90s to about 2016. What was leading edge during those years in clinical engineering? And it was digital health, but it wasn't just integrating a medical device into electronic health record. It was many more things. So think expansively about what clinical engineers can do to make a difference in healthcare today, the way it looks. You can help meet government requirements about electronic health records and devices. You can work with computerized physician order entry, which is what the doctor sees when they first go into the electronic health record, about practice alarms and alerts that drive evidence-based care based on what the information coming from medical devices. Social media, I mean, seeing your doctor before you go to the visit, seeing your doctor after you go to the visit, all of that is driven by social media. Patient care, interactive at the point of care with all these point of care testing and measurement devices. Data mining for clinical decision support from electronic health records. We drive that with a lot of the devices and the information we provide. The medical device integration I've already mentioned. Increasingly patient data from mobile apps for monitoring congestive heart failure, hypertension, diabetes, and so forth. Wireless infrastructure. I mean, some of this is a bit old news, but you can use wireless to improve clinical workflows, and clinical engineers can drive that. Genomic patient evaluation. That data is coming in from so many sources. We can help marshal that data to make a difference. And then, of course, facilitating during COVID and beyond, facilitating telehealth for improved access using mobile medical device tools. So there's so many wide ways that we can be involved in digital health. All right, so I know I'm running out of time here. What is important to you about your career? How can you work on it? For me, it was ex scientia shalom. My undergraduate university said, out of knowledge, ex scientia, comes sea power, because I went to the Navy training place here in the US. But I believe our profession is, out of knowledge, we can bring peace. We can bring holistic peace, as that Hebrew word speaks to. And it's fueled by professional relationships over time. For me, opportunities to teach and serve, and then to drill down in faith-based tools and perspectives. I had a chance in Eastern Europe with some colleagues to create where we enabled a key physician in that country to go to his parliament and said, if you invest in neonatal care in this particular way, you'll save 1,000 babies over the next 10 years. And so that's what I mean by getting to use clinical engineering and quality to make a difference in healthcare. So what's important to you? I mean, that's what you've got to figure out. I love this picture of our colleagues from Rome in our third of 5 congresses so far every 2 years, where we had 1,000 of us from 70 countries. And certainly we thought about together we can make it better. But first of all, we're a relaxed group. We're a group from every continent of the world. We're a group that's happy to be together, sharing knowledge and best practices. There's some South Africans in there if you look hard. We're somebody that can learn together and play together and enjoy one another, but make a difference at the same time. So as I wrap up here, what do I want you to remember? Find ways to keep on growing. This is a book Mladen Paluta shared with me 25 years ago at the 99 workshop that we had there. And I guess Yinza in Zulu is do it. So find a way to put into action your learning in a variety of ways. Nurture professional relationships, both locally there and nationally and globally. And just remember, as you help develop others, we're better together. So thank you so much. Mladen helped me get all these thank yous right. I will say there's an appendix when you look at this later of what does the global community look like, all kinds of folks from all kinds of places. What did clinical engineering and Kaiser Permanente look like? And this is the emerging digital health and integrated devices view of a large health system, about 40 hospitals and 600 clinics. And when we did medical device integration, what did that look like? What kinds of devices and how was that involved? So thank you, and I'll stop for questions.
Thank you, Tom.
Welcome.
So just for those that came in a bit late, that was a pre-recording, and but we've got Tom live from the States, and so we're opening up the floor for a few questions. If you have a question, you're more than welcome to pose them now. If you maybe rather use the chat box, you're more than welcome to use the chat box, and I shall read them too.
I'll just note that people can raise hand in the react button. One way to get attention.
True. Thank you. And while we're waiting for that, I've got maybe a question over here. And yeah, you touched on multiple subjects there. And one of the questions that I had, you actually answered them. And the second question that I have is, how does one go about developing soft skills in this field of clinical engineering? How did you go about developing your soft skills? Look, you spoke a lot about your exposures, your experience, but how did you develop your soft skills?
Two thoughts come to mind. One way is through failure and not having good ones. And I was at an exhibition in the State Society and was telling about our program, and my colleague said, you need to get a lot more clear and simple. You don't need to tell 500-word stories when 20 words will get it done. And then, what are you engaged in outside the profession? Are you on boards for children? Or, what are you doing, with your wife and couples if, or spouse if married?
Voluntary services, eh?
So the point is get involved in things outside
Yeah.
of the profession, and that will help you work on stuff inside. Yeah.
That's a good point.
In other words, go where people will give you feedback. How you doing? What the heck are you talking about?
Those are not necessarily paid options. Yeah. Any other question? Any hands? So
I'll talk about somebody else just for a minute that's interesting, and Mladen knows this person well. So in that 25th reunion of the Advanced Clinical Engineering workshops, we call them Advanced Clinical Engineering seminars, we got to meet some people back in 2015, so 10 years ago now. And one of them was an early 30s guy from India who happened to be incredibly bright, like a lot of you are. And but he did something pretty unusual. He had this vision, and he was working in the Ministry of Health in his country, big country, obviously. And then he was involved in the health technologies unit in the Ministry of Health. And, he was thinking big. I mean, he helped put out mobile clinics and mobile dialysis and all kind of stuff like that, mobile labs. But then he had a vision to his country, and I know this is a little off on tangent, but I'll be quick about it. He said, "Hey, we're turned out later, not too many years after, to be the biggest country in the world, and they were exporting all their medical devices." And so he, both from an academic and a practical point of view, said, "I can create a med tech zone to create medical devices for my country." And when you get in the medical device business, you're also in the health IT business and in the quality business. And so, that was 2015. By 2018, he had, started in his province a med tech zone that became nationalized later. And during COVID, and he went through some hard days. Not everybody always believed in the vision, but today there's 150 companies, 5,000 people working in this med tech zone in Southeast India, and they make everything from masks to MRIs, and they do it with high quality. And so, in other words, if you've got a vision, no matter what size it is, find people around you that can help, nurture that vision. And during COVID, they made thousands of test kits a day. They made millions of test kits a day, thousands of oxygen concentrators and ventilators and stuff. They even got the oxygen concentrators out to the population that could afford it for $5 a day through Uber. You could rent one. So, I mean, just take your creative, Gen Z people and others, take your creative ideas and find a way to build on them. Over. Talking about Jatendra Sharma.
Thank you.
And by the way, he's hit 40 now. He's an old man now, 40, 42 or something.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Any other questions?
It's not a question, but I'd just like to acknowledge Tom's input. He's become a good friend and colleague over the years. Just acknowledge his input, and it's just a stimulus, I would like to think, to KISA members, especially the younger members, and just to remember that you are part of a regional, national, regional, and global family. And with the internet now, it's very easy to cross borders and to communicate with colleagues on the other side of the world. Make use of the resources that are provided by GCEA, by the IFMBE Clinic Engineering Division, and think about volunteering for some of the work that Tom, I, and others are doing within GCEA. It's really about connecting, building bridges between colleagues everywhere. And as Tom said, why? Well, to improve healthcare systems everywhere, including here in South Africa. And what can we learn from colleagues in the region, in other countries? What benchmarks, what case studies can we use to inform our situation so that we do better with less? But thanks again, Tom, and thanks for setting up this celebration.
I did just put something in the chat, Jeffrey and Dieter, and I hope all of you are on the mailing list, and I can pass this on to your leadership and they can pass it on to all of you. We've had a series of Pan-Africa, all the countries of Africa, both the Afro from WHO point of view and the IMRO countries in North Africa, and trying to hit multiple languages and so forth. But there's a special issue of the Global Clinical Engineering Journal that's now 7 years old, coming out about Pan-Africa and focused on maintenance. And maintenance is a big word, and there's maintenance of what? Everything you can think of that our field touches. So there's a webinar about that, and we want you to share your stories of success and challenge about that. And so this special issue, the input will come between now and the middle of January and come out hopefully in the first quarter of next year with lots of stories and lots of insight in what surveys show us is the biggest issue facing clinical engineers, not only in Africa, but across the world. Over. And thanks, Mladen. And by the way, if you need any stories about Mladen, to get in trouble or get back at him, I can share those with you later. He is the president-elect of the Global Clinical Engineering Alliance, so we do need to treat him with respect.
Absolutely. Thank you. We've taken a note of that and we'll share that. Thank you very much. I think that goes on to the next point. If there's any other questions, any other hands? No. All right. We move on to the next agenda point. And that is our Global Clinical Engineering Day Competition Awards. Tom, you're more than welcome to stay on, unless you really need to get you a lunch. But yeah, hang 10, and then it'll be great if you can be part of this. Yeah. All right. So the next agenda point is the Global Clinical Engineering Day Competition Awards. And so Adita's going to do a playback now for us. Great. So the awards go to, we've got Appreciate. So she's won a prize of a high quality power bank plus a brand Akisa jacket. Next prize goes to the Young Clinical Engineering Professional of the Year Award, goes to Elvis. So in this case, he has now won himself a iPad, as well as a Bose cancelling headphones plus a Akisa jacket. Congratulations to you. Next prize goes, next topic, is the Clinical Engineering Leadership Award, and that goes to Brent, and he won himself again an iPad, as well as Bose noise cancelling headphones, as well as a Akisa jacket. Well done to you. Then the Mentorship Award, first prize, that is again an iPad, or I'm saying iPad, but it's a tablet. That goes to the mentor. Then the mentor in this case is Mohammed Berra is on your left-hand side. We've got a Mohammed squared over here. So the second Mohammed is Mohammed Kasna, and he is the mentee. And the mentee wins himself a RS component 2-pouch plus branded Akisa jacket. Well done to you. The next point, the next subject is a mentorship award. So the runner prize for this is the mentor is Tufiwe Mango, as well as then the mentee is Erika. So they both win themselves together, they win themselves a Leatherman multi-tool plus a branded Akisa jacket. Well done to the two of you. That concludes the awards. And so while we're having this webinar, some of you may have known or noticed on our application, well, on the registration process, we actually have 2 live events taking place. One is happening in the Western Cape, that's in Cape Town, and the other one is happening in Johannesburg. Those sessions are running live, and then we've obviously got this online session that we are going to be posting on our YouTube page. And that is a wrap, and that concludes. I really appreciate has Tom left? Tom, are you online still?
You're still here, not on video.
Okay. All right.
There he
Okay.
is.
Back again.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for the recording. Thank you for the up and down mails that I've been included in. I really appreciate your input. Your CV is long, thick, and hard, and I can see that you've really applied yourself throughout your career in many spheres. And yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for adding value into our little pool of KISA, Clinical Engineering Association of South Africa. And yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
You're welcome, and you guys are fun. What can I say?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and then that's a wrap from the Global Clinical Engineering Alliance. And thank you, Maladen, for being present here too. Really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for attending, and you're more than welcome to log off anytime from now. Thank you very much. That concludes the session for today.